Long ago, in a quiet town at the edge of the forest, there lived a young man and his sister. Their home was simple, fenced with wood and stone, and behind it was a small line of a narrow river that flowed from the rocks. This river was no ordinary stream. It sprang from a great rock, tumbling down as a waterfall, and ran across the backyard of their home before winding deeper into the forest. The sound of rushing water filled the nights, mingling with the croaks of frogs that lived in its banks. In certain seasons, the frogs multiplied. Their voices rose in a chorus, croaking, chirping, singing in thousands, as if the river itself was alive with music. The young man was used to it. He was familiar with the sound of frogs. But one season, something happened, something strange, something terrifying. One night, as he lay awake, troubled by thoughts he could not explain, he listened closely to the croaks outside. At first, it was the same chorus of frogs, but then, within the noise, he heard something unusual. It was not the sound of a frog. It was not the cry of an animal. It was a voice, deep, heavy, eerie. And that voice whispered only one word: death, death, death. The young man froze. His heart pounded. This was no ordinary sound. The voice rose for minutes, then stopped suddenly, only to begin again after a short silence. For about 10 minutes it spoke, then paused. About 20 minutes later, it continued, again and again, through the night. He knew the voices of frogs. He had lived by this river for some time. But this voice was human, or worse, it was something that pretended to be human. Fear clung to his heart. Could it be a wandering spirit? Could it be the spirit of death itself, lurking by the river, searching for whom to take? He remembered the words of the elders. There is power in the tongue. The spirits of the night listen to the words spoken into the air. If this voice was speaking death, then surely death is what it carried. That night, the young man could not sleep. Instead, he fell on his knees and prayed. He prayed with all his strength, asking God to protect him and his sister from whatever spirit prowled outside. But the story did not end there. Several nights passed. The voice from the river came again and again. Always the same word. Always the same darkness. Until one night, the terror moved closer. It was midnight. The young man awoke to the sound again. But this time, the voice was not coming from the river. It was coming from inside his room. He turned in shock. His eyes fell upon his sister, lying on her bed, eyes closed in deep sleep. But from her lips came the same sound, the same deep, unearthly voice. Death, death, death. His body trembled. His blood ran cold. The very voice that haunted the river was now speaking through his sister. The young man knew what to do. He reached for her and shook her gently. "Sister, wake up! We must pray!" She stirred, confused, but the strange voice still clung to her breath. Without wasting time, they both dropped to their knees. In fear and trembling, they began to pray. Their voices, at first small and weak, grew louder, stronger. The name of God filled the room. And as they prayed, the voice began to fade. The heavy, dreadful sound melted into silence. The frogs still croaked outside, but the evil spirit was gone. That night they prayed until dawn. For a few days the voice were no longer heard, but this mysterious voice came back again after about 2 weeks. On hearing this voice again one midnight, this man rose up from his bed, faced the window, and spoke a few words of prayer in the name of Jesus, and immediately the voice dies out. So nights after nights, whenever this spirit returns to utter its evil pronouncement, "Death, death," this man will rise up and pray short prayers from the Bible in the name of Jesus, and this strange voice will die out. But also, in many cases, this man will have to respond in several instances in one night, because the spirit will keep coming back to check if this man has stopped praying, and the man will respond equally. There have been occasions where this dialogue will go on into the early hour of the morning by 4 a.m. So it became a battle between two powers. One strange thing also occurred. Some of the nights when this spirit comes, at hours before midnight, around 8 or 9 p.m., this man will get up to go to his backyard to speak words of prayer directly to the waters. But as he approaches close by, the voice will immediately die out without him saying any word of prayer. So by this man now was convinced that his presence close by was also powerful enough to silence that voice by now. After some months, this spirit never came close by, but heard distances far away, much into the forest, and this man rested from sleepless nights of power tussles with that spirit. Henceforth, the frogs croaked as usual, with no other voice mingled with the sound of the frogs. And in that silence, the dreadful voice vanished. So the young man was no longer afraid. Never again did it return. The frogs still came with each season, but their voices carried no other sound. The young man and his sister lived on, strengthened by faith, no longer afraid of the night. And so the story teaches us this spiritual truth. Even when fear speaks loudly in the dark, the power of prayer and the strength of faith can silence it. For evil may whisper death, but the living tongue lifted in prayer will always speak life.